Let's start with an uncomfortable truth. Cheese is basically spoiled milk. Yes, that piece of Parmesan on your pasta, the mozzarella melting on your pizza, the gorgonzola you love, all started as a preservation failure. And it was precisely that failure, probably the happiest and smelliest mistake in human history, that gave rise to one of the most beloved foods on the planet. But the story of cheese isn't just about an accident. It's the story of a 7,000-year journey, beginning with a forgetful nomadic shepherd and transforming into a global industry of over 22 million tons per year. Come along as we uncover the complete history of cheese. The most likely date for the birth of cheese is around 800 BC, when sheep were first domesticated in the Middle East. But how exactly did someone discover that sour, curdled milk was not only edible but also delicious? The most famous legend tells the story of an Arab merchant named Kanana. He was crossing the desert with a supply of milk stored in a travel bag made from an animal's stomach. Hours later, when he went to drink the milk, he noticed it had separated into a solid part, the curds, and a liquid part, the whey. The combination of the sun's heat, the motion of the journey, and the natural enzymes in the animal's stomach had curdled the milk. Although it's a legend, it perfectly illustrates the scientific principle behind cheesemaking, the addition of an enzyme, rennet, to separate milk into solid curds and liquid whey. The Egyptians were among the first peoples to raise cattle on a large scale, and cheese quickly became an important part of their diet and culture. The fertile Nile Valley provided abundant pastures, and milk and cheese became symbols of prosperity, so much so that the goddess Hathor was depicted with cow's horns on her head. The proof of cheese's value to them came from tombs. Archaeologists found blocks of 2,600-year-old cheese in the tombs of high-ranking officials in Saqqara. In 2018, they discovered what is considered the oldest cheese in the world, a solid substance 3,200 years old inside the tomb of Thales, an official of Pharaoh Seti I. In Europe, the Greeks were the first to adopt cheese into their menus, producing it with goats and sheep's milk. For them, cheese was a divine food. The famous feta cheese is mentioned in Homer's Odyssey, and Olympic athletes and Spartan warriors consumed cheese as a source of energy before battles. But it was the Romans who turned cheese into a mass phenomenon. As they expanded their empire, they carried cheesemaking techniques across Europe. The Romans appreciated cheese, produced countless varieties, and used it to feed their soldiers and athletes, knowing its nutritional properties. With the fall of the Roman Empire, cheesemaking found its home in medieval monasteries. Monks dedicated centuries to perfecting the art, turning monasteries into centers of innovation, developing techniques for pressing, salting, and extended aging that allowed for the creation of increasingly flavorful and longer-lasting cheeses. The Portuguese word for cheese, queijo, derives from the medieval term formatium, meaning cheese placed in a mold. It was during this time that many of Europe's great cheese varieties began to take shape. Today, there are over 2,000 different types of cheese in the world, each with its own history. The holes in Swiss cheese, emmental, are caused by carbon dioxide bubbles released by bacteria during fermentation. Blue cheese, like Gorgonzola and Roquefort, gets its characteristic veins from the addition of penicillium mold. The most expensive cheese in the world is Pule, from Serbia, made from donkey's milk. It can cost over 1,000 euros per kilogram, and it takes about 25 liters of milk to produce just 1 kilogram. The most controversial cheese is Casu Marzu, from Sardinia, known as living cheese, infested with live fly larvae that give it a creamy texture and strong flavor. Its sale is banned within the European Union. The largest per capita consumers of cheese are Europeans. In 2021, France led with 26.3 kilograms per person per year, followed by Iceland with 25.9 kilograms and Finland with 25.8 kilograms. The United States consumes 17.4 kilograms per capita. In Brazil, consumption is only 3.8 kilograms per year, far below the average of the top 10 consuming countries. The global cheese market was valued at an impressive $74 billion in 2025, and the dairy sector employs over 240 million people worldwide. The next time you bite into a pizza or grate Parmesan over your pasta, remember, you're not just eating a dairy product. You're tasting 7,000 years of history, beginning with an accident in the desert, passing through the pharaohs of Egypt, Greek philosophy, Roman expansion, and monastic devotion, to become a global industry that moves billions and delights palates worldwide. Now I want to know from you, what's your favorite cheese? Are you on Team Parmesan, mozzarella, or do you venture into blues and exotics? Tell us in the comments. If you enjoyed this story, hit that like button to help the channel grow. And if you're not subscribed yet, subscribe now and ring the bell because every week a new story is coming out of the kitchen. See you on the next plate.